talking automation, and one of the professions that has been highlighted is as an industry and profession that is most likely to be displaced through automation is accountancy. So I think this is a perfect segue to look at skills convergence programs as a solution. So I'm absolutely delighted to invite Ash Noah, who's the VP and Managing Director for Learning, Education and Development from, this is a bit of a mouthful here now, from the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, which is two bodies from the US and from the UK, I believe, which have joined forces to create a new association to represent the entire breadth of the accounting profession. So I said I wasn't going to take very long. That intro took quite a long time. So Ash, I'm going to hand over to you. If you don't mind, if we can try and cut it down to 10 minutes, to try and get slightly back on track, that would be awesome. Thank you, Ash.
Absolutely. Delighted to be joining you all. Kerry, can you see my presentation deck?
Perfect. Yep.
Okay, and you can hear me well?
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so you've already introduced me. My role is really about thinking about the skills of the future and meeting those skills through our professional qualification. So I'm responsible for the examinations, the content that is examined in terms of the syllabus, the research that goes into the finance function, and to make sure we remain relevant, not just as professionals, but also as management accountants. So that's really my role. So I live and breathe and wake up every morning thinking about the skills and the competencies that we need to create. So the business challenges that we face, I'm going to structure this with covering some of the key challenges, why there's a skills convergence requirement, and how can we address that, and what are we doing as AICPA CIMA to be addressing that. So you've heard about how the role of finance is being automated. Now, if you look at the role of finance and you look at it holistically end to end, what finance does is it collates information, curates it, provides the insights, and then communicates with influence, collaborates with the other functions in the business to create impact in terms of a strategic impact and co-create value. So that is in very quickly what finance really should be doing. So we are seeing that those first two boxes, we've heard about automation, anything that's predictable, repeatable, anything that is rule-based, and you heard in the last presentation, anything that takes less than 5 seconds to think will be automated. So most of that falls in those first two boxes. And so that what remains then is for us to start applying our human skills and mindsets which we can bring. So yes, technology will automate, but what we need to move towards in terms of skills convergence is really ramp up and upskill in terms of those human skills and mindsets. So what are those human skills and mindsets? Again, you've heard them, analytical thinking. These came out of the WEF, World Economic Forum, a couple of years ago. Analytical thinking, complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, leadership, reasoning, working with people, and collaboration. So these are the kind of skills and mindsets in terms of where we need to move towards to solve the business problems that we currently face. Automation is changing the very shape of the finance organization structure. Core accounting operations heavily impacted by process robotics in the cloud, leveraging in-memory computing. What we're looking at is only 10 to 20% of the workforce in a corporation really addressing core accounting operations. There's a big middle that continues to grow, which requires subject matter expertise, the analytics around decision-making and decision support, and then the finance leaders who are co-creating value. And this is the whole move from business partnering to value partnering. So another reason to address the skills convergence in terms of what are the new competencies required and how do we address the growing middle, whereas the first two boxes that you saw, which is the accounting operations predominantly being more and more automated. So again, we need to be addressing the skills that are required in that growing middle band. Some of the business challenges. The proportion of intangible value in an enterprise continues to increase, which means that only 10% of our value is in the P&L and balance sheet. And what we need to be addressing is the ability to address the intangibles. And so the two tangibles are financial capital and manufactured capital, which we've always been good at measuring, driving, controlling, protecting. What we need to be looking now at is intellectual capital and capital around social relationships, the capital around what you're using in terms of natural capital. And these are the non-financial capitals that are 90% of the value. And the human capital, which is, we all admit, the greatest asset in our organization. So these are the four other intangibles that are not in your balance sheet that we need to be thinking about in terms of how do we handle the intangibles. So we want to look at the business model. This is what really drives the requirement for skills convergence, that finance needs to be able to engage with the business using the dimensions of your business model and really co-creating value. So what I mean is, predominantly, finance is focused on costs and revenues and the P&L and balance sheet. And these other dimensions are where we require skills and competencies that drive the new mindsets. So intangible value, if you want to create intangible value, you need to be able to get your arms around the business model and to be able to engage with the business if you want to create value with these new skills and competencies that I'll talk about. Another final defining issue is ESG. ESG is going to change the way we look at our businesses. And if you think about the 90-10 value patterns I just mentioned, P&L balance sheet, you're really controlling and driving 10% of the value. The other intangibles, which will be impacted by sustainability reporting, will impact 90% of your value. And so that switch from being able to, yes, we are great at financial reporting, we have our internal controls over financial reporting, we are accurate in our financial reporting, but as sustainability reporting gets rolled out and is required by jurisdictions and becomes a part of the standards of reporting, and that will cover the human capital, the relationship capital, the social capital, the intellectual capital, that's what will start driving value. And so again, we're looking at a whole new set of skill sets to be able to address sustainability reporting in terms of the intangible through the business model. So it is all connected. And so when we look at the mindsets, so years ago, 20 years ago, we were all specialists and we moved to becoming the T-shaped accountants. We needed broad strategic knowledge, we needed business knowledge. So we added business knowledge to being a specialist, people skills, leadership skills, etc. And we were driving a T-shaped type professional. As the skill convergence challenge continues to increase, what we're seeing is we need not just one specialist skill in accounting and finance, but we need multiple specialist skills. And as we grow and as we go into this future, what we're looking at is multiple specialist skills required along with a broad general knowledge. So the need for those competencies that are broad, and I talked about some of those competencies in terms of the human skills, but also other areas of business specialism to be able to understand operations or marketing or HR more deeply. To have other skill sets such as Six Sigma, project and change management, Prince2, another specialism around data engineering, data science. All these requirements are becoming very, very accelerated and heightened in finance professionals. So as I think about our professional qualification, the body of knowledge that is required, that one requires mastery over, continues to grow. And so we need to be thinking about how do we make future professionals, how do we create future professional accountants who will enable value creation in the business? And if I overlay the mindsets on top of this new structure of finance, what we see is maybe there are more mindsets, but these are the 6 major ones that need to come in at these levels. We need an agile mindset. Fundamentally, we need to change the way finance thinks from a linear sequential way of doing things to be able to be agile, not linear and sequential, but having a mindset of testing and learning, failing fast, minimum viable product type mentality. These concepts need to become more and more central to our core capability as we think about skill convergence. To have an automation and technology mindset, you've heard enough about that all morning. Having a data analytics mindset, looking for sources of data, thinking of every source of data and joining the dots across the organization, bringing in data sets from the outside and being able to join the dots, not just internally in the enterprise, but also externally, and really be able to solve problem through a mindset that is around design thinking. And it's not just about identifying the problem, finding the solution and moving on, but also being able to implement the solution and that execution around problem solving mindset. To anticipate what's around the corner, to look around the corner for your business, to be able to anticipate what is next in this volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous environment is really, really important. And ultimately, it's about creating value and co-creating value. So these are some of the mindsets that are absolutely essential as we go forward. Okay, so what are we doing as a profession and how are we addressing this? We're thinking about new ways of learning. We're thinking about scenario-based learning. We're thinking about moving the needle from not just acquisition of knowledge, and it's not just about demonstrable knowledge, it's now about demonstrable competencies. So we're having to move from being able to, what is it that I can do, rather than what is it that I know. And we do that through mini simulations, case study exams, knowledge checks along the way of your journey of learning, rather than the ability to memorize. Interactive exercises, which are real life-based scenarios, and assessments, which also need to move so that we are assessing competencies and not just knowledge. So these are the ways that we are challenged as a finance profession. These are some of the challenges we face. I've presented to you some of the mindsets. And then finally, what I'm saying is, as a profession, we are changing how professionals will learn and how professionals are assessed, so that we can continue certifying professionals that have demonstrable competencies rather than demonstrable knowledge. And that's one of the major shifts that we have to make. And these are some of the mindsets that are covered that we have to think about. So I did what I was supposed to do in 20 minutes, in 10. Hopefully I delivered that there, Kelly, and it's back to you.
That is great. Thank you, Ash. And it's so good to hear that the death of the accountant is not nigh at all. It's very much alive. And also great to hear that, you're focusing on really important skill sets, such as, the requirements for reporting on ESG and all things sustainable. So, so thank you very much for joining us.